আগে একটু রেকর্ডিংটা স্টার্ট করি।
হ্যাঁ, করেছি।
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, welcome to the Fall 2023 Graduate Seminar, where we feature our graduate students from all the three tracks from the master's program that we have. So, each term, faculty members from the previous term nominates their students. These students are again the ones who have submitted or presented outstanding works in the courses. So with that, we are here for the Fall 2023 Graduate Seminar, and this time we have 13 students presenting from all the three tracks. So we will begin with the presentations now. So we have the head of the department, Ms. Arifa Ghani Rahman, present here today. We are also joined by the Special Advisor to the Board of Trustees, Professor Shamshad Murtuza. Sir, the Dean of Arts and Humanities, will join us very soon. But I think we will start with the presentations now. So let me first of all welcome Mohammad Naimul Islam from Literature and Cultural Studies track. He was nominated by his faculty from the course Approaches to Cultural Theory. The title of his presentation is The Contribution of Frankfurt School in the Development of Cultural Theories on Popular Culture. So, Naimul, please go ahead and present.
Hello everyone, good morning. So my work on English 505 was the contribution of Frankfurt School in the development of cultural theories on popular culture. Frankfurt School, first of all, let me give you an introduction to Frankfurt School. The full name of this school, intellectual school, was the Frankfurt Institute of for Social Research, and it was founded at Goethe University, Frankfurt, in 1923. So this school was founded and ran by left-wing German Jewish intellectual. And excuse me for my spelling mistake. I wrote left-wish. It's left-wing. Among those intellectuals, Theodor Adorno, Max Horkheimer, Herbert Marcuse, and Walter Benjamin were the notable intellectuals that contributed to the social and socio-economic critique of capitalism, and their contemporary issues like not only capitalism but also the communism, specifically the totalitarianism that was in Soviet Union. Also, their biggest target of critique was their contemporary Nazi Germany, and because of Nazi Germany and and World War II, those intellectuals had to flee their country to mostly North America and other parts of Europe. And it is important to know the context on which their critique and their theories were founded. As I said, it was Nazi Germany and Nazism, also Marxist totalitarianism, but also and most importantly on popular culture, it was the capitalist monopoly and consumerism culture in USA that they were exposed to when they fled to North America. Uh, it can be a question that Frankfurt School theory might be outdated because it was during 1930s, 1940s. But uh, I would argue that it is important because this was the foundational theories or foundational criticism on which modern theories, modern critique of culture, consumerism, and popular culture were developed. So, Frankfurt School's theories are kind of 101 for cultural theories. So, it is important to be aware of the history or the develop or the basis. So, the school, the Frankfurt School was heavily critical of the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment that was supposed to bring about the rationality, the individuality, the autonomous capability of individuals through science and technological advancement. But this school, especially Theodor Adorno, saw this enlightenment as a weapon, as a tool for the authority to actually deceive mass people. For example, Nazi Germany used media and film to propagate their ideologies against what they supposed to be as inferior races. So they saw enlightenment as an something that was anti-enlightenment. So Theodor Adorno starts his theory of popular cultural culture in a whole there from Marxist theory, which is commodity fetishism. In Marxist theory, commodity fetishism is when a product is valued by its consumer, not because of its utilitarian values or practical values, not by the human labor that produce the products, but by the exchange value. Exchange value of a product is first of all the price. The higher the price, the more it can achieve an social status among peers, among social peers. So that is exchange value of a commodity according to Marx. Theodor Adorno brought this commodity fetishism in cultural products. He thought that cultural products like movie, like music, like arts, those things became products because they could they could achieve a sense of status. For example, in Adorno's time, musical concert for music, the higher the prices for those tickets, the higher the status and higher the social attention for people who could attend the concert. In our time, I would argue that and we can all see that attending a prestigious concert like Coke Studio concert or visiting Dhaka Art Summit uh, has become less about appreciating the artistry of that was in the exhibition, but it's more about now showing off on social media that they attended those functions. It has become a cool trend. It has become something to be proud of, or it has become a tool to boast your social status. And then the school also produced a theory of modern capitalism in their contemporary time. in USA especially, they saw that capitalism had achieved a sense of stability and perpetuation by creating by manufacturing false needs, false desires for its consumer. And one of the intellectuals from Frankfurt School, Herbert Marcuse, argued that false needs assumes a coexistence of real needs. Real needs are that a human being can be creative and autonomous being who can be think for himself what he consumes or what he rejects. Not his taste and preference shouldn't be shaped by the market, capitalist market. That's what the school assumes as real needs. But false needs are manufactured by the capitalism. For example, if we can see our current conflicts around the world, these conflicts are manufactured so that the market, the corporations can profit from these wars and conflict by supplying arms and ammunition. Also, on a personal level, these false needs could be the desire for purchasing the greatest brand or the model of phones every year. So the school argues that these are false needs that only profits the pocket of corporations and capitalism. Another critic that these false needs are even more dangerous because they are disguised as real needs. For example, freedom of choice. So now we have freedom of choice to choose between brands of uh, uh, products, or we have freedom of choice to elect either this corrupted party or this corrupted political party. These are our freedom of choice that we think we are actively choosing. And uh, la- finally, the school theorized that culture industry, the thin synthesis of commodity fetishism, false needs, and the monopoly that capitalism has established. All these created a culture industry where a cultural product, a movie, superhero movie, pop song are produced because of their profit margin in the market, because of if they have value and demand in the market, so that the producers can earn profit from those products. Uh, Finally, I want to conclude this by through an example of Sony PlayStation's The Last of Us 2, which acts as what Theodore Adorno called as social cement. Social cement, according to him, is a kind of ideological stance uh, where cultural products doesn't hide the reality, impoverished reality from us. They actually makes us acknowledge that we are living in an unjust world, and we are also led to accept that there is nothing we can change this. The Last of Us 2, I find it intriguing example. The co-creator of this game was Neil Druckmann, who was Israeli American. So he said in an interview that the inspiration for this story, which revolves around the cycle of violence and revenge, when he was young, he saw that two Israeli soldiers were killed by 2,000 Palestinian, and he felt uh, an inhuman amount of rage and violence. And he later reflected upon that this hate is universal. It is a universal nature of human being. So although the game explores the human depravities, came out of fear and scarcity. It The problem is that it accepts the position of hate and violence as an innate human fact, but it, instead of examining or exploring where and why this cycle of hate was born or learned. So in the end, the game was hugely successful, and the Sony company gained their profit, and they won. So uh, uh, this was my work on this topic.
Thank you so much, Naimul, for presenting your work from the course Approaches to Cultural Theory, and he was nominated by our faculty, part-time faculty, Joinul Abidin. So thank you, Naimul, for your presentation. So we will now move on to the second presenter, who is from Applied Linguistics and TESOL track. So now I would like to invite Anika Tasin to give her presentation. So she will be presenting from the course Discourse Analysis and Pragmatics. She was nominated by Dr. Abdullah Al Mahmoud, and the title of her presentation is Corpus Assisted Discourse Analysis. Anika, please go ahead and present.
Thank you, ma'am.
Please go to your presentation. Yes.
Have you ever wondered how the words we choose and the way we structure our sentences can shape the meaning of our communication? Today, let's take a look into the realm of corpus assisted discourse analysis to unravel the intricate tapestry of language in our lives. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ankita Singh. I'm truly honored to be here today. At first, I want to express my gratitude to Dr. Abdullah Mahmoud sir for nominating my paper and giving me the opportunity to present at this seminar. So I will start by defining discourse analysis. So discourse analysis is the analysis of both spoken as well as written language in relation to its linguistic and social context, and discusses how different types of language construct meaning. It derives the meaning by examining the language used in our day to sorry uh, it, language uh, that used in a corpus or body of data. Discourse analysis can take different forms. Some forms focus on the details of language, like sounds and grammars, and while others focus on how language is used to accomplish its goals. While conducting discourse analysis, the focus might laid on the purpose and results of various languages, communications, customs, and cultural norms, and the way attitudes, beliefs, and values are expressed, and the relation between use of language and its social, political, and historical context. And a discourse analysis that incorporates corpus linguistics in analyzing text or conversations is known as corpus assisted discourse studies, or it is also known as CADA or CADS. Corpus linguistics is the study of language based on the examples of language use. In 2004, Partington first introduced the term corpus assisted discourse studies, and it provides more systematic observation into language used by combining the principles of both discourse analysis and corpus linguistics. For the paper, I had to make a corpus assisted discourse analysis table that is created based on some discourse elements. We were supposed to choose a text and identify the particular examples for those elements from the text. So today I will be discussing those elements and providing some examples to illustrate each points. So the first element is a deixis. Deixis describes a word or phrase that expresses the moment, setting, or circumstance in which a speaker is speaking. There are three types of deixis: personal, spatial, and temporal. Personal deixis is used to indicate people, spatial deixis is used to indicate location, and temporal deixis is used to indicate time. For example, last week I flew over there for a quick visit. In this sentence, last week is temporal, I is personal, and there is working as a special basis. Uh, Then the next one, anaphora and cataphora. Anaphora refers to the use of a pronoun or other types of linguistic unit to refer back to a previous word or phrase. For example, Mimi is reading books. She likes to read books. Here, she is the anaphoric reference of Mimi. Now, second example is John loves cats. No wonder he has 20 cats. Here, he is the anaphoric reference of John. On the other hand, cataphoric reference cataphora refers to a pronoun or other linguistic unit that is used in a phrase to refer to another word in advance. For example, it doesn't fit, the dress is too long. Here, it is the cataphoric reference of the dress. Uh, when he arrived, John noticed that the door was open. Here, he is the cataphoric reference of John. Next, context. Context refers to the words that in a text that provide context and helps to understand meaning. For example, Argentina wins the World Cup. Here, Argentina is the referring expression, and the rest of the sentence is the context. Second one is ellipsis. Ellipsis is the omission of a word or words from a sentence uh, rather than repeating them unnecessarily. For example, these apples are delicious. Let's buy some. Here, some is the ellipsis of apple. Last one is substitution. Substitution refers to the replacement of a word or phrase with a filler word such as so, do, or one, etc. In order to avoid repetition, ellipsis is used. For example, she will have some sandwich and I will have the same. Here, the word same is working as a substitution. Uh, Next one is connectives. Uh, Conjunctions or connectives are the words that connect words, sentences, as well as clauses. For example, although he was ill, he went to work. Here, the word always working as a connective. I have provided some more examples uh, of connectives in the chart. Uh, and second one is lexical repetition. Lexical repetition occurs when a specific lexical item is used repeatedly in a text, either in a same or a comparable form. For example, the tiger chased the deer. Here, the deer was fast, but the tiger was faster. Here, uh, the deer is repeated twice. Paraphrase. If a lexical item is used twice in order to indicate the same meaning, the second expression should attempt to clarify the first using additional words or even sentences rather than in terms of sense relation. For example, she is good at cooking. She makes delicious dishes. Here, the second sentence is working as a paraphrase for the first sentence. The second one is collocation. Collocation is a lexical cohesion that refers to the natural combination of words that appears together. For example, to do homework, uh, high temperature, pay attention, or take a photo, etc. Last one is keywords. Frequently used words or concordance refers to the words used several times in a particular text. And the last one is keywords. Keywords are significant words that have specific meaning in a text or discussion. So these are the elements was used to. These are the elements that I used to create the table. Now moving on to the next part, application of CADA. Corpus-assisted discourse analysis investigates linguistic patterns in large amounts of language data. The main goal of corpus-assisted discourse studies is to investigate and compare the characteristics of different discourse kinds while including the analysis of the methods and resources created by corpus linguistics. Through CADA, the researchers can discover or insight into the hidden meaning, detect different types of linguistic forms, and investigate the way language is utilized to create as well as transmit social, cultural, and circumstantial information in various types of discourse. And alongside frequency or keywords lists, CADA researchers interrogate the data in a variety of ways. For example, by close reading, uh, by close reading, writing, or watching or listening to its subjects. By using this method, they can learn how language is employed in diverse situations in order to represent particular meanings, such as collocations, metaphors, or rhetorical devices, to gain insights into communicative strategies. Uh, and the next one is discourse features. Analyzing discourse features like uh, coherence, cohesion, and argumentation to understand how language functions in specific context. In conclusion, corpus-assisted discourse analysis provides a comprehensive lens through which we explore the intricate interplay of language, context, and meaning. As we delved into the elements of discourse analysis, from deixis and anaphora to foretext and lexical repetition, we uncovered the richness embedded in linguistic patterns. Uh, this is all about the topic. Was my topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anika, for
Thank you.
presenting.
Okay.
I would again request the audience that we have the question answer session towards the end of all the presentations. So please stay back for that and you can ask your questions then. Thank you, Anika. Thank you for your presentation. You can stop your presentation. So moving on, our third presenter is from literature and creative writing track. So the student is Shah Mohammad Tawhidur Rahman Afridi, who was nominated from the course ENG 549, Writing Creative Nonfiction, by his faculty, Professor Shamshad Mokusa. The topic of Tawhid's presentation is Keyword Creative, the art of incorporating creativity in nonfiction writing. So Tawhid, please go ahead and present.
Hello, everyone. Am I properly audible?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead and present.
Is, is it visible?
To this, please.
Okay. So, creative nonfiction was actually one of the skillfully. It was one of the most fun courses I've ever done. Actually, it's because we all know what fiction and nonfiction is. So we all know what fiction and nonfiction is, but the key word that this course really incorporated in my mind was creative. So creative nonfiction and the keyword creative, the art of incorporating creativity in nonfiction. This is fundamentally the creative part of the entire nonfiction genre. Is what I personally learned in this course, and it really affected my writing in a very positive way. So moving on. So, according to Lee Gutkin, creative nonfiction are true stories well told. I mean, the journey from nonfiction to creative nonfiction, the gray area in between, is entirely the way of certain things are presented. Now, we all know that nonfiction deals with facts and real life and true elements, but in order to make it more appealing to a reader, in order for a reader to have the interest, to grasp the interest of a reader, we we have there are ways and creative methods that a writer can use in order to hook the reader and leave its impact while uh, while it is delivering the message and delivering the intent it is written for. Uh, so in the course, we came across a lot of stories that we can write through creative nonfiction. For example, memoirs and personal essays, travel writing, literary journalism, features, opens, etc. For me, the real learning here was I would, as a writer and as a student of the creative writing stream, I would write a lot of things, and I would write my own personal stories. I would write stories from my own memory, which are factually true, which are nonfiction writings. But uh, if through every writing, I would feel that I would ask myself the question that is it appealing for a reader? In order to make it appealing for a reader, the methods that I learned in this course actually helped me to incorporate the creativity in my nonfiction writing, be it whatever the writer may be. It could be a personal essay, travel writing, etc., etc. So the first objective that I had in my final submission was I was given to write a personal essay as my final submission, as one of my final submissions, and Shamsad sir actually pointed out that there are a lot of things that we had to incorporate in there, and it was very it's a very thorough question. The objectives were very clear. We were supposed to come up with a very creative title, so that whenever a reader, in general, whenever a reader is looking into a story that is nonfiction, the title has to hook the reader. So the objectives of the writer was creative title, a braided structure. Braided structure means that uh, the ideas of the whole write-up has to be entangled in a way that we can go back and forth, so that there is a certain element of sequence in the write-up, where we find out that a certain thing has happened, and then it is how it is connected, and how the write-up is structured like a braid. So that was an objective. uh, we were given uh, we were given a theme where we had to incorporate three generations of a certain family, uh, where we write a personal essay where three certain generations of a family from past, present, and future are part of the write-up, and they have a very rich, complex portrait. And we had to come up with a very rich, complex portrait of a shared journey that people from these three generations would share. So, as part of my personal essay, I was somewhat struggling with the idea of three generations. So, the first thing that would come to my mind is is me, my father, and my grandfather, and I stuck to that idea, and I made sure that I would come up with a creative story that would portray a certain element that is shared between the three of us as a generation. So one of the things that happened at the moment was very in the moment kind of thing, that my father would come into the room, and he would ask me if I need the lights to be switched on. Like, I was probably in my computer, and he would always suggest me to not keep the switches, to not keep the lights on. It's a very father like gesture, and that is what I incorporated in my story. And I wanted to hook the readers with my title, and so I called it "Curse of the Light Switch." It's a personal essay based on real facts of my grandfather, my father, and most probably me. So, the Curse of the Light Switch, if I have to sum it down, it's a story where my grandfather would be. I would have. Uh, in my family, there were in the older generations, they would always want to save electricity, and although the switches have changed, the curse or the habit has not. So what I put it in my story is that my grandfather would punish my father if he would be wasting electricity or if he would keep switches on. And he, although he was a victim of he was on the victim side of this, he would grow up to become a father, and he would somewhat uh, apply the same rule on us in a different way. So if I have to read some parts of my story, I would. So, however, a generational trauma that has carried on in my family is quite closely linked with those switches on the wall. Their shapes, sizes, positions, etc. may have changed, and they may have evolved into a smaller and more subtle experience, but the sound of a flick of those switches still haunts me, and what I got to know recently, my father as well. So here I tried to blend in that this was carried out from generation to generation, bringing in the objective aspect of how I was supposed to braid elements in my story. Moving on, off of the story of my grandfather, my grandmother, that my grandmother told me regarding my grandfather, and the light switch. There were a lot more things that made sense. The two generations behind me, and not just my parents or grandparents, but in general, have lived a life that have constantly been in saving mode. Uh, it is very much that I think we could all relate to some extent that our parents hated when uh, we waste electricity. But uh, but what caught my mind was that I'll read the third part. It astonished me as to how a victim of 1985, which was my father, had been programmed in the environment of certain oppression and is functioning similarly himself. Like he was on the oppressed side himself, where he would have to deal with punishments. So it would be wrong for me to say that wasting electricity or not switching things off while leaving is good behavior, but it is evident that due to certain cultural programming, sometimes it steps into the world of irrationality. Uh, my father would come into my room in the morning. He would see if I am if I'm wearing a blanket or not. So he would assume that I'm feeling cold, and he would switch it off. But I know in the back of my head that he's doing it to save electricity. So this thing has carried on, although he has been a victim of it. This thing has carried on, this curse, I would say, and that was the core of my story. So I ended it with saying that my father had always justified to me that he was nothing compared to his own father, and I believe that. But it does scare me that if I carry this curse forward and would find out a more subtle way of doing it, uh, that my own brother or my own child, but to me, it's nothing compared to what my own father did. I don't know how, but it's my turn to try and switch off this curse once and for all. However, I don't believe that I will be able to do it. It's a very generational curse. I will probably grow older and become a father who would maybe do the same thing to my children, maybe in a more subtle way, and not and say that my father used to be worse. So what are you complaining about? So this was my personal story where I tried to incorporate a hooking title. I tried to incorporate the graded structure of tying up the generational stories. I put in anecdotes and my own uh, experiences in a creative way, and I made sure that uh, my information that I was providing to the reader is not linear. It's creative, and it has elements that is fun to read. If I am going for fun, because this was more of a more humorous writer, so I would appeal to that objective so that appeals to the reader, and that was my personal essay story. And moving on to the second objective that I was supposed to write in my final report was a news report. Now, these two things, a personal essay and a news report, are miles apart, and they have to be dealt with in very different ways. So The instructions that I was provided for the final report was that I had to incorporate price hike and inflationary trends, personal anecdotes, and of the effects of this, expert analysis and data for credibility because it's a news report, captivate reader through storytelling and understanding. However, uh, news reports, there is a certain sense of seriousness that has to be uh, in a news report, and I cannot take an entire creative liberty on in my I cannot take uh, that creative liberty, so that I incorporate a lot of creative elements in my story so that it will take away the feel of being a news report. A news report has to be something that provides data and provides someone with proper information, but maybe you do it in a way that is more appealing to the reader. So uh, what I first did was come up with a title that would portray more than what I need to say, however, doing it in a creative way. Um, so my theme was rising prices because I had to deal with inflationary elements. So the title of my news report was "Living Off Peanuts, Not an Option Anymore." So this title, I believe, if someone comes across this title, he or she would be more interested to read this report rather than saying that uh, pri- uh, peanuts prices have risen. If a report was named that, I think this acts more of a hook to a reader. So I started off with living off peanuts has always been an expression to portray the condition of the poor, but even that is now an overestimation. 1 kilo peanuts now costs 750 to 950 depending on the region, hence it is far away from the grasp of any daily wage earner. The example of for less value, which was peanuts, has now entered the basket of luxury goods. Now, I have explained my title, but I have also catered to the need of my, but I have also catered to the, sorry about that. I've also catered to the objective. So I've also incorporated anecdotes where I said the last time bike mechanic Harashid enjoyed a proper meal of beef was at senior's wedding. He said, I came back to that day fancying to make the dish for an event myself at home. However, the continuous rise in prices of beef has prolonged the wait. So, furthermore, because moreover, I had to incorporate data. So I did some research and I came up with facts and numbers from the BPS, and finally I gave an experience through us. Uh, I've read it. It is a given that the purchasing power of the people have minimized along with with the constant high inflations, especially for the poor and low income families. People have been waking up before the sun to stand in the uh, open market lines for hours. The crowd in front of TVC trucks are ever increasing. Now, I could have just said that are standing in front of people are standing in lines to get things cheap. Now, in order to give the reader a feel of how people are struggling, and hence included the line, people have been waking up before the sun to stand. So this gives more of a feel appeal to the readers, and that was my objective in this writer. So I worked on the hook and I worked on anecdotes, I worked on data, but I also made sure that I had creative storytelling where I would portray the scenario of how things were as per the news report. So, to conclude my presentation and to conclude everything that I've learned through this course, a clear concept and vision of the genre. Now, I personally knew fiction and nonfiction, and I thought nonfiction would incorporate some creativity in that. However, the scale of creativity that I wasn't aware of the scale of creativity that could be included in nonfiction writing, and this course has really helped me, and it has really influenced my writing in a way that I can write nonfiction where in the back of my head I know how it's going to appeal to the reader, what elements I need to work on, and what are things I need to put in to make sure that the reader is hooked to my write-up. And my creative skills for nonfiction writing has been enhanced fundamentally. It has been enhanced exponentially in this course. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tawhid, for your presentation. So that was from creative writing track. So moving on, we have the next presenter from Applied Linguistics and TESOL track. So our next presenter is Kanis Fatima Lamia from the course Advanced Sociolinguistics, and the faculty who nominated her was Dr. Abu Saleh Mohammad Rafi. So Kanis Fatima Lamia's title of the presentation is Translanguaging as a Medium of Instruction and a Pedagogy in Classrooms. Kanis Fatima, please go ahead and present.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is. Please go back to your presentation. Please give the screen sharing. Yes, this one. Yeah, give the slideshow. Yes.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Kanis Fatima Lamia, and the topic of my presentation is from Advanced Sociolinguistics course. At first, I want to thank my course teacher, Rafi sir, and I'm grateful that he helped me to get this platform to present myself here today. Today I'm going to talk about the concept of translanguaging, like what is translanguaging, and translanguaging as a medium of instruction and a pedagogy in Bangladeshi classroom. First, what is a translanguaging? Lin describes that translanguaging theories focus on the idea that language is flexible and always changing, and translanguaging focuses on the actual use of language and how people use language to create meaning, and does not focus on specific languages. And it also differs from the idea of code switching, as Garza and Way described that code switching is when people switch back and forth between two languages, but translanguaging goes beyond that. For example, if I talk about English language, then some particular words and phrases are separated, and then it was given a name as English language. So likewise, in case of Bangla language, some particular words and phrases are separated, and now we know those particular words and phrases as a Bangla language. But translanguaging actually, translanguaging does not make this a separation between languages. Rather, it focuses on what words and phrases an individual uses, and how an individual uses in their real life communication to create meaning in different ways. In that way, translanguaging is different from the idea of specific and separate languages and the idea of code switching. If I now talk about a medium of instruction policy in Bangladeshi higher education, then Rahman et al. In their study showed that public universities follow Bangla medium of instruction, or BMI, to uphold nationalism, a language, and a cultural identity of the people of our country. And private universities follow English medium of instruction, or EMI, to keep pace with globalization, and to produce graduates capable of meeting international job market demands. So here, in university level, most of these students are from Bangla medium background, and in case of private universities, most of the students do not have a good proficiency level in English in the beginning. So Rafi and Morgan in their study showed that translanguaging practices in micro or classroom level, both by the teachers and the students. It means that whatever MOI, like it is BMI or EMI, a university follows, it doesn't matter. But in classroom level, students and teachers do not strictly follow BMI or EMI. Rather, they use translanguaging, like their language repertoire in classroom, for better communication between them and for better understanding of the contents. So Rafi and Morgan found that though the macro level MOI policy is monolingual in Bangladeshi private and public universities, translanguaging exists in actual practice at the classroom levels, and most of the teachers accommodated translanguaging in their pedagogical discourses. So Rafi and Morgan suggested that translanguaging pedagogies will provide as a more accessible MOI in the focal universities. So instead of using a particular, or instead of strictly following BMI or EMI, incorporating translanguaging as a MOI can be more beneficial for both for the teachers and the students. So this is how actually translanguaging has a great potential to be a medium of instruction in Bangladeshi universities. So if I now talk about the implication of translanguaging pedagogy in classrooms, then Garza persuasively argued that providing a bilingual education is the best way to provide equitable education to the children of 21st century. It means that incorporating translanguaging pedagogy, and according to Chris and Blackledge, translanguaging pedagogies in classrooms motivate and enhance confidence, along with empowering and engaging students in what they're learning. And Liu Sattel in their study showed that translanguaging as a pedagogy, it's a strategy that alternates the languages for input and output activities inside the classroom. And Shinos and Gorter describe that translanguaging, pedagogical translanguaging is when a teacher deliberately uses different languages in classroom for teaching. So on the basis of the findings of those studies, I have prepared a lesson plan on the topic of types of English sentences, like simple, complex, and compound sentences. I have prepared a lesson plan using translanguaging pedagogical approaches. So through using this demo lesson plan, translanguaging pedagogy can be applied in a classroom instead of strictly following English medium of instruction. So the framework for my demo lesson plan is the rules of translanguaging in grammar by Silsettle. So Silsettle in their study showed that three types of translanguaging should be used in grammar. So first one is translanguaging for self-repetition. It means that repeating oneself, but doing so in a different language each time. And second one is continuous segmental translanguaging, where students will move between languages intrasententially. It means that within a sentence. And cross a speaker interactional translanguaging. It means that a second speaker will build upon the utterance of the first speaker, but while doing so, he or she will use a different language from the first speaker. So here is the lesson plan. So I have also showed advantages of following this lesson plan in classroom. So the topic is the types of English sentences: simple, complex, and compound. So at first, teacher will introduce the topic to the class, like to the students, using translanguaging, like using their language, not English. And then teacher will ask them to write some sentences about what they like most about their university or their institution in their language, not in English. Because if they are told to write in English, in case of that, they may find it difficult when they will do not know some necessary words or phrases in English. So here translanguaging is kind of helping them to expressing their ideas more clearly. So in this second step, the teacher will explain the structures of English language, but the teacher will use translanguaging, like language of the students, and after that a teacher will again explain it in English. So here a student will have a good content knowledge about the content, and as well as a student will have will learn some necessary vocabularies, phrases, and expressions and ideas in English as well regarding the concept. So after that, a student will ask a teacher about their doubts in their language so that they can develop a better content knowledge. So in the first step, teacher will ask students to look back to their script they have written earlier using translanguaging, and a student will find out what are the simple, complex, and compound sentences in their script, and they will share it with their class. So here, translanguaging will help them to develop good and clear content knowledge, and then teacher will ask them to find similarities and dissimilarities between the structures of English sentences and their language structures. So here translanguaging will work as a resource, so to understand the idea of English sentence structure. So a student will use their language to understand the sentences of English language. So after that, teacher will provide them some exercises where students have to transform one type of sentence into another type. In here, student have to maintain the structure of English sentences, like simple structures of simple, complex, and compound sentences, but they can use translanguaging. Like for example, if a student does not know the word despite, then the student may write like hardworking kora sotteo he failed in the exam. So here he or she is maintaining the structure of complex sentence, but he or she is using his or her language in case of he doesn't know the exact English word. So in this step, students actually is moving between languages within a sentence. And after that, teacher will tell them a story, a part of a story, and student have to complete it using simple, complex, and compound sentences. So in case of this assignment, a student will first write in translanguaging, like they will use translanguaging for brainstorming and for gather the ideas all together. And when they are done, they will again write it in English, like they will translate their whole story in English, and they will submit it to the teachers. So here actually translanguaging is working as a supporter for the students. It scaffolds the students to learn a content better in English, but they are using their language to understand the English more better way. So these are the steps of my lesson plan, but there can be some challenges that one can face while implementing in the classroom. Like if the medium of instruction policy is strict, in that case incorporating translanguaging may not fulfill the demands or learning goals of a curriculum, like if a university follows strictly BMI or EMI. And obviously before in applying this lesson plan, it is needed to be reviewed by scholars with expertise, otherwise it may fail to serve the learning goals of the contents. And there should be balance between spontaneous and pedagogical translanguaging. Like spontaneous translanguaging means the way we naturally speak outside the classroom, but inside the classroom a teacher need to make sure that translanguaging pedagogy is like implemented in a strategic way. Otherwise it may fail to serve the purpose. So that was all about my presentation. And here are the examples of my work.
Thank you so much, Kanis Fatima Lamia, for your presentation on advanced sociolinguistics. So now I would like to invite Raunuk Jahanaki from Literature and Cultural Studies track. She was nominated from the course Literature and Ideas by Professor Shamshat Murtuza. The title of her presentation is The Raw versus the Cooked, an analysis of Padma Puran narrative and Padma Puran Gan performance in Nator, Bangladesh.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope I'm visible and audible as well.
Yes, but you need to, I think, switch on the sync because you're all upside down. Yes, your video. So if you can fix that.
I hope it's okay now. Um,
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Hope you are well. This is Raunuk Jahanaki, and today I have titled my presentation as The Raw versus the Cooked, an analysis of Padma Puran narrative and Padma Puran Gan performance in Nator, Bangladesh. So before going into the main part, let me just clarify what does my title suggest and what I'm actually going to do. So I have decided to explore the differences between Padma Puran narrative and Padma Puran Gan performance in Nator, and this part of the title, the raw versus the cooked, is kind of inspired from Levi Strauss' book with the same title, The Raw and the Cooked, where he aligned the raw as the natural origin and the cooked as those of the social and cultural origin. So in my analysis, I have I have decided to take Padma Puran narrative as depicted in Jamil Ahmed book Ochin Pakhi Infinity as the raw one, and Padma Puran Gan performance in Nator, Bangladesh, depicted in the same book as the cooked version of the story. So a brief on Manasha. Manasha is a mind-born or sometimes argued as illegitimate daughter of Shiva. She being the snake goddess and is worshipped widely in different parts of Bangladesh as well as in uh, West India, and she is also known by different names such as Padma, Nagmata, Vaishnavi, Jagat Gauri, etc. And she both serves as a life giver and taker, carrying quote unquote poison in one eye and quote unquote nectar of immortality into the another. She is also a manipulative on one hand and a kind nature on another, and the eulogization of her divinity and benignity mixed with malignity is depicted in a narrative called Manushamongol Kabbo, which was written um, probably in between 15th and 18th century by a group of writers. So I'm not going to describe the summary of the raw part that is the Padma Puran narrative. Rather, I have taken some performative events that I find quite different from the raw version of the story. So in Nator, both Muslim and Hindu are alike to sponsor the performance as a promised offering to snake goddess Manusha upon the recovery of the snake bitten victims, and that's the reason for why I guess Manusha's diligence and power as a snake goddess is highlighted in each and every stage of the performance. For example, in Jamil Ahmed's summary of the core story of Manusha and also other stories, there is no mentioning of Manusha's biting and killing her husband, the Said Jarat Karu, on her wedding night, and also also her desire to have a child from her husband. But in the performance that I regarded as a cooked part, there is a strong there showcase, I mean, they showcase a strong personality of Monasha, and who denies the patriarchal idealization of motherhood and also an ideal woman. So so that's the part. And also the reference, and also since I already mentioned that both Muslim and non-Muslim alike to sponsor Monasha Mongol or Padma Puran Gan performance, so there exists a kind of syncretism, that means the mixture of two religion in the performance. For example, the reference of the banishment of Usabala and Usabali, both of them are the dancer of heavenly courts, and which is assimilates with the banishment of Adam and Eve from the heaven. And last thing that I find crucial is that the inputs of various god and goddesses like Pavan, Kalnagini, Vaishkarma, Vaishkarma are similar to the Greek mythology, where especially Homer's The Iliad, where each and every god and goddesses contribute to help their preferred mortal being. And next up, if we look at the existing literature, we could find that how the story of Monasha is still regarded as a fascinating story, and can explore from various point of view, starting from historical, cultural, religious, mythological, feminist, and post-colonial as well. But in my analysis, I decided to show Monosha as a trickster, which is a prominent concept that we explore in the course literature and ideas. And according to Louis Heath, as depicted in his book Trickster Makes This World, Mischief, Myth, and Art, he says, quote, "The best way to describe trickster is to say simply that the boundary is where he will be found, sometimes drawing the line, sometimes crossing it, sometimes erasing or moving it, but always there. The god of threshold in all its forms." So trickster is basically a shape shifter, a destroyer, as well as a creator, and you can't actually place him or her into any kind of binarity, whether she is good or bad. Rather, she stays into the boundary. And in Padma Puran Gan performance that I consider as the cooked version, Manusha, in order to pursue her own matters, uses a number of tricks, including shape shifting and stays in between the boundaries. And she reveals herself as a terrific, shows her tenacity and become a cultural hero, and shows how to survive and do the undone. And that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ronok Jahanaki, for your presentation from the course Literature and Ideas. So we will now move to our next presenter from Literature and Creative Writing track. Our presenter next is Maliha Haq from the course Fiction Writing, and she was nominated by Professor Syed Manzoorul Islam. The title of her presentation is Reading Candles from the Mausoleum Using Magic Realism and Folkloric Elements in Short Fiction. Maliha, please go ahead and present.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Uh, Hello. Respected faculties and my fellow graduates, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. So, am I audible?
Yes, you are, Maliha. Please go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. So the title of my presentation is Reading Candles from the Mausoleum Using Folkloric and Magical Realist Elements in Short Fiction. So basically, I wrote a short story in Manzoorul Islam sir's fiction writing class, and sir appreciated this story. So I thought that I would focus on this one and how I use these elements in my story writing. So let's go ahead. Let's start with what we understand about folklore. Folklore is the traditional beliefs, stories, customs, and legends transmitted from generation to generation. So these beliefs and stories can be transmitted both orally and through written process. For example, many anecdotes from the Mahabharata are actually folklore, but they are in a written form. Folklore may belong to villagers or town dwellers. Folklore doesn't mean it is focused on villages. Folk means people, so it can be from the lives of the villagers or even town dwellers. Folklore may have exaggerated events and people grounded in history. So next we will see what magical realism is all about. Magical realism basically has two parts, the magical and the realism. So magical is the unexpected alteration of reality. When the miraculous enters our reality, we call it magical. And the realism part is the richness or the objectivity of reality. And when the magical, the revelatory, and the supernatural actually seeps into the real, we call it magical realism. Now, before describing anything else, I would like to read from my story. This is a very short story, so I will directly go to my story. As you can see, the title is "Candles from the Mausoleum." So there are candles and mausoleum. So I think you can already guess that there might be something magical in magical elements in this story. So let me start reading. Candles from the Mausoleum. My grandmother, who we call Dadi, used to say that our family line has many renowned Pir Fakirs, religious ascetics, and holy men. People say that these holy men are the Habib or close friends of Allah. One of them from our family line is the Kuwat Pir. The Urdu word Kuwat means powerful. Dadi said that the Pir, who goes back 5 generations since her birth, was granted special power by the Almighty because of his sincere devotion. In our family, there is a strong belief that at least one person in every generation will be blessed with some kind of supernatural power because of their lineage tracing back to Kuwait Pir. So his legacy still continues. But nobody ever knows when and who would inherit such power until it happens. Those who receive such grace are called fuzail, bounty or gift in the family. No fuzail is allowed to share the knowledge of their bounty. It is more like an open secret. You might witness something supernatural about them, but you must not speak of it. The two fuzails that I have known were my dadi and now my fufu, aunt. In my generation, nobody has inherited such power yet. My father came from Shochunkanda, a village in Rajbari. I have heard anecdotes about different fuzails from locals of Shochunkanda. One of these is about some incidents that happened after 1971. The years following the liberation war were tough for the nation. It had suffered unimaginable desolation during the war and faced a near famine condition after the war. Whole villages were laid waste with shortage of basic needs. Hunger drove people to kill others for food. Shotgunkanda was no exception. It ran short of food, salt, and clothes. People dying of hunger lay on railway tracks and village roads. My dadi was a kind hearted woman. The villagers called her Boroma, a motherly figure, out of respect. No hungry villager returned empty handed from Boroma's kitchen, even in the days of crisis. Legend has it that Boroma's rice reserve was pitless. No matter how many times she drew rice, the reserve never got empty. People believed that making rice appear out of nowhere was my dadi's fuzail, but nobody can tell for sure. The important part is many lives were rescued from hunger. My grandparents' home stands on 9 bigha land. It is similar to any other picturesque rural Bengali household, surrounded by lush bamboo groves, mango, lychee, and jackfruit trees. With an old banyan tree in the middle of the yard, a tube well supplying clean cold water, a pond swarming with grass carp, silver carp, katla, and tilapia. There was one distinct feature of my grandparents' household, an age old mausoleum which was built in the memory of Kuwait Pir. It first appeared almost 200 years ago mysteriously. Legend has it that the mausoleum was erected overnight by some supernatural beings who were followers or murid of the Pir. It is believed that they still look after the mausoleum, making sure that it maintained its shine. Some locals say that they are obedient Muslim jinns. Some say they are angels sent by Allah. When rural Bengalis speak about history, half of it is displaced by imagination. I can only speak for myself. I distinctly remember one incident from my childhood. Summer vacations then would bring together all my cousins to our grandparents' home. The reunion was a long celebration made happier by games and gossip along with tasty food. But we took care that we avoided going near the mausoleum, which could be seen from our playground. However, we eagerly waited for a particular event each evening, a jadoo or a magic show. Every day, as the time of evening prayer began, we could notice white candles being lit at the mausoleum. Funnily enough, no human being lit them. Yet they would burn from the evening till the time the call for dawn prayer sounded from the mosque. It was an everyday thing. No family member was surprised by this, and nobody liked to mention it. Since witnessing that jadoo, I have never been brave enough to use white candles in my life. Many years have passed Many years have passed since I last visited my grandparents' house. After the passing of my dadi, my father stopped visiting Shojjankanda. All my cousins have grown up and are living in different parts of the world. I left home 5 years ago for higher studies in Canada. Memories of my grandparents' home seem like blurred images from another lifetime now, and I rarely stumble upon them. Last night, something strange happened. I had a dream about my grandparents' home. I was moving around the familiar courtyard, breathing in the freshness of a time of innocence. And then I found myself sitting at the mausoleum of Kuwat Peer, with my dadi, fufu, and two or three other women chanting the name of Allah in unison. I could sense it. I could sense it was the time of the evening prayer, and the muazzin of the mosque had already given the call for prayer. I noticed that all the women got busy lighting candles, but I kept sitting tense, waiting. A few moments passed. Then a tall man in white clothes and a turban, with white beard, suddenly appeared and stood in front of me. His face was a flux of white light, and perhaps he was smiling at me. There was something very familiar about it, his smile, the women, the candles, the call for prayer. I tried to figure out what was going on, dreaming all the while, eyes moving rapidly under my lids. Before I could make any sense of it, a sharp noise broke my dream. My mobile phone was ringing. It was a call from my cousin, Fufu's daughter. She told me that my Fufu had passed away. My eyes were still closed as I wondered, but she was here a moment ago. It took me some time to register the news. I jumped out of the bed to check my surroundings. It was still night time, but my room seemed bright. The floor was daubed with white candles, all lit up. So basically, that's my story. And let's see what let me just in short discuss the elements of fiction that I have tried to maintain in Candles from the Mausoleum. So the plot is basically passing down a supernatural gift which is called a fuzail, and there it is passed down from generation to generation. The characters are the narrator, Dadi, Fufu, and the Peer. The setting is an ancestral home in rural Bengal. The point of view is first person point of view. The basic conflict is the narrator is is trying to reconcile with her past and the present, and since she has moved to a new country in a new world, I think that is also she's trying to reconcile. So her real life and the life of legends that she has seen in her childhood is also a place of conflict here. The theme is mausoleum culture. Symbol, the candles are also a symbol here. The tone is both realistic and mysterious. So, how have I applied magical realism and folkloric elements in the short story? We see that there are themes of folk religious practices, like you cannot tell anyone what fuzail you have, or you have to burn candles. There are superstitions. Then we see that local anecdotes about the fuzails are passed down. It's a part of folkloric tradition that you share the anecdotes with others. The richness of reality, as we see the post 1971 days of a rural Bengali village, that also shows the richness of reality. We see there is an element of dream and the subconscious when the narrator, is thinking if she's dreaming or she is in her courtyard, in her grandparents' courtyard, nurturing the supernatural even in modern generations. So this woman has left her country, her village. She is in Canada, but she's still nurturing that supernatural within her. Miraculous events breaking the monotony of everyday life. And then the whole story is about the nostalgia of lost time, which I think we see in magical realist stories. So, this is all about my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maliha, for your presentation fiction writing. So we will now move on to our next presenter, who is from the track Applied Linguistics and TESOL. The presenter is Sumaya Naushin, and she'll be presenting from the course Theories of First and Second Language Acquisition, nominated by the faculty Harun Rashid Khan. The title of her presentation is Theories on First and Second Language Acquisition. So, inviting Sumaya to begin her presentation.
Hello, hello everyone. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to my presentation. So the title of my topic is Theories of First and Second Language Acquisition. So basically, whatever I have learned in the course Theories of First and Second Language Acquisition, I'll be discussing all those theories. Not all the theories, like the main theories that I have liked, and I think these are important or like have application in real life. So first of all, what's the difference between first and second language? So the first language is basically our mother tongue. So that is the language that usually our parents or our caregivers speak. So a child usually learn that language from their parents or from their caregiver. But however, we can also learn our first language in our later life. Like for example, if my mother is Italian and but she speaks Bangla, then I'll learn Bangla as my first language. But her mother tongue is Italian, right? So if I learn Italian later, that will be not my first language, but also my first language because that's my mother's tongue. And usually we are fluent in our first language. It doesn't matter if we know it doesn't matter if we don't know all the rules or the vocabularies of the first language. But when we speak that language, we are fluent in that language, and we acquire our first language and unconsciously. Like when a child is like hearing all the words from her parents, from his or her parents, so he's actually like picking up the words unconsciously. He doesn't know the rules or the vocabularies, but he just know the words, and he can then speak the language. So that's how we acquired the first language. And on the other hand, second language is our foreign language. So it can be your third, fourth, or whatever language. And usually it is learned later in our life, like through formal education, like you go to school or something, and then you learn the language. But also we can learn our second language or other languages informally. Like for example, Hindi. We don't really like go to Hindi schools to learn Hindi, but we still learn Hindi like through movies or songs. And we can be almost fluent in our second language. Like if we practice more or if we are exposed to that language more, then we can be fluent in that language. But we will not be as fluent as our first language in the second language. And we learn the second language consciously because when we are learning something, we are very conscious about the rules or the pronunciation. So yeah. Okay, so these are the theories and concepts that I have learned from the course, but the first four are the theories that I have really liked from the course, and the last two are the concepts that I have liked from the course. So I'll be explaining them briefly, and I'll show the real life application of the theories. So the first one is behaviorism. So the person on the left, his name is B.F. Skinner, and he was the pioneer of this theory. So according to B.F. Skinner, language learning is like a habit formation. So when we develop a habit, what we do? So at first we learn something, or like we memorize something, and then we repeat it, or like we practice it again and again, and then at the end we get an award. Award is like reinforcement. So like if we do something good, we will get some award, and if we do it badly, like the result is bad, then we will get some punishment, right? So according to B.F. Skinner, language learning is in the same way. So like we memorize the rules or the pronunciation or the words, and then we repeat it, like we practice it, and then we get some award. So the award can be like academically, or like if you can like use the language properly, then that means you are getting an award. So however, most of the linguists actually like reject this theory because if you are like only memorizing something blindly without understanding anything, it doesn't really develop your cognitive skills. Cognitive means like our mental skill. So you're just learning. You're not actually like understanding anything. So what's the point of that, right? But still, behaviorism is needed for L2 practice. L2 means our second language. So you have to know the rules. You have to actually memorize some rules of the foreign language, and then if you practice, then you can actually like use that language properly. And also this behaviorism has real life application. See the singers, the actors, so what they do, they have to like memorize the script, right? They have to memorize the songs or the acting script, and then they have to repeat it again and again so that they can perform better. So that's how there is some real life application of behaviorism. So we cannot actually totally ignore or reject this theory. And then the second one is innatism. So the pioneer of this theory was Noam Chomsky, who is known as the father of linguistics. So according to him, there is an imaginary device known as LAD, that is language acquisition device inside our brain, which actually like allow us to learn the language. So it's like we are programmed from our childhood, we are programmed to learn a language. So a parent doesn't need to push his children to learn a language. Automatically, a children will learn the language because it comes from within. So like from innate, it is innate within us. So proof of this innatism theory is sign language. So the deaf children or the deaf people, they do not actually know how to speak, right? But they can use the sign. So how do they how can they use this sign language? Because they have this innatism, according to this Noam Chomsky. So because we have this program set within us, so we can actually understand what others are saying, and also we can communicate somehow because of this this device. So yeah, that is innatism. And then third one is social interactionism. So the pioneer of this theory was Lev Vygotsky, and according to him, we learn best socially. And we know society and culture are interconnected. So according to Vygotsky, we have another imaginary device in our brain, which is known as LASS, that is Language Acquisition Supporting System. So because of this supporting system, like because of this device, when we are in a society or in a culture, so from that society and culture, we can learn that language. Like for example, if you are in Italy, so you are in an Italian society and with Italian people, right? So that time you can pick up their words and their language. So that's how you will actually learn the language better, because you will be talking with them, you will know the actual pronunciation and the words. So if you're directly exposed to that, TL here means target language. So if you're directly exposed to that language, you will learn the language better. So thanks to our social media, we can now actually like talk with the native speakers of a language. It can be English or any other language. So when you are learning, when you are communicating with a person of that language, so you can actually like learn that language much better. And then the last theory is child language acquisition. So the pioneer of this theory was John Piaget. So according to him, every children undergoes 4 stages of cognitive development, and our language development occurs in this through this cognitive development. So due to lack of time, I'm not explaining all the 4 stages, but every children as I said, every children undergoes these 4 stages. So like they will show different personalities or like characteristics, and when they're passing the stages, and also the language development will occur gradually in these stages. So according to him, all the parents and teachers should know this theory, because that's how the parents and the teachers will know when to actually like how to be careful, or how to be aware of the children, if they know where at which stage child is, then he will know, okay, he's showing this behavior, like my child is showing this behavior, that's because he's in this stage. Oh, he's saying all these words because he's in this stage. So to know all these things, the parents and the teachers should know this theory. So we had in our course, we had this assignment that where we had to interview a child who is 3 years old, and we had to like observe his his characteristics and the way he speaks. So I had this I did this experiment on my nephew. He was 3 years old, and so when I observed him, I saw his characteristics was like he was very egocentric. He was not listening to his parents. He was in his own world. He was doing whatever he wanted, and he had this like the tendency to explore everything. He was getting a toy and he was breaking the toy, and he was seeing inside of the toy because he wanted to see inside. So that means that's like he wanted to explore everything, as I said. So that's actually like he was in his second stage, because the child who is in the second stage, they will show this kind of characteristics. And also he had speech delay, but still he was fluent, almost fluent in his first language, that is in Bangla. But still he had some like the interesting thing was he could not like speak the words that had the word L, I mean the letter L. Like for example, he was saying my favorite color is nan. So instead of saying lal, he was replacing L with N. And then he was saying, I love komona, like the fruit orange. So instead of saying komola, he was saying komona. So that's okay, because he's still in second stage. As he will grow older, most probably he will like learn this thing, and he will overcome this deficiency. And then the concept fossilization. So the main idea of this concept is that when the learning, unlearning, and relearning stops. So basically, when we learn something new, but if we learn it in a wrong way, then we have to unlearn it, so that we can forget the old one, and then we can learn the new one. So that is called as learning, unlearning, relearning. But sometimes it happens like we just, even though no matter how much we try, we just cannot forget the old one. So like for example, usually in grammar or pronunciation, there are some words like the grammatical rules we just cannot like forget the old one. And that's because due to lack of practice, or there was no one who will like who would correct the error. Like for example, there are some people who will say I am agree with you. We know this is a wrong statement, right? So no matter how many times he tried to correct it, that it will be I agree with you, not I am agree with you, but he will never, I mean, yeah, he will never actually improve himself. He will never rectify. So that is because maybe he didn't practice it much, or maybe he didn't have anyone who would like correct him. So that's how this I am agree with you, like this statement has been like fossilized. So fossilized means like something that has stopped, right? Like it has become a fossil. So yeah, this is actually very interesting, this topic with this concept, because there are people, usually this happens in our second language. So you'll see in our surroundings, there are people who will actually who will never actually improvise from pronouncing a word like incorrectly, or maybe like from like saying a grammatically wrong sentence. And the last one is nativization. So this means actually modification of a language. So when a language undergoes different changes, it can be like symmetrically changed or like phonetically changed, and then it gains a new native speaker. That is known as nativization. So like if I give example from English, so in Bangladesh, we use English now, right? As our not only foreign language, but as our second language. But do we actually speak English like the way British or Americans or like the native speakers speak? No, right? So in Bangladesh, this English has undergone different changes, semantically and phonetically. So that is known as, so that means we have nativized or like localized our English in Bangladeshi way. So that is in Bangladesh, that is known as Banglish, like Bangladeshi English. In India, they also have like they have made English in their own way. That is known as English, and Chinglish is like Chinese English. So like if I give one example, so in Bangla we say apple, we say table. We don't really say apple, right? But however, we have accepted it. All the Bangladeshis, even if you say apple, no one will say anything, no one will correct you, because we have accepted it. But it is accepted locally. If you go to America and if you say apple, give me an apple, give me an apple, so maybe Americans will not even understand what you are asking. But in Bangladesh, if you say give me an apple, no one will say anything. So that means the word apple is accepted locally, not globally. However, in the English means Hindi, I mean Indian English, the word chai, which is tea, it is accepted globally. So if an Indian even goes to America and says, I want chai, they will understand what he is asking. Like even the foreigners also use the word chai. So the word chai is accepted globally or internationally. So yeah, that is nativization. We actually like modify English as per our, like you can say, as per our culture, or yeah. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samaya and Orshin, for your presentation. So that was from the course theories of first and second language acquisition. So we will now move on to our next presenter, who is Saima Afsana, from the course Cultural Construction of Shakespeare, and was nominated by the faculty, Professor Professor Syed Manzoor Islam. So she's from Literature and Cultural Studies track. So the title of her presentation is Contradictory Ideas of Women in Shakespeare's Tragedies and Comedies. Sama Afsana, please present.
Thank you, ma'am. Good day, everyone. Today, my presentation topic is contradictory ideas of women in Shakespeare tragedies and comedies.
Saima, can you please give slideshow?
Ma'am, it is in slideshow.
Please choose slideshow because it's showing as your full screen.
Ma'am, is it visible now?
Okay, I think you should go ahead and present. Yes, please.
Okay, good day, everyone. Today, my presentation topic is contradictory ideas of women in Shakespeare tragedies and comedies from the course Cultural Construction of Shakespeare. Literary texts are loaded with ideologies, sometimes covertly and sometimes overtly. Shakespeare's plays, both the tragedies and comedies, are perfect specimens of art and literature. His plays reflect all the issues and perspectives of the contemporary England and the world in general. The issue related to women are as old as human life. Shakespeare's feminist concerns are reflected in his tragedies like Othello, Macbeth, Hamlet, and comedies like Twelfth Night, As You Like It, and A Midsummer Night's Dream. These plays have a strong presence.
Saima, are
Yes, ma'am.
you changing your slides because no changes are taking place here on the screen? So I think you need to just stop sharing, then choose entire screen and then start presenting.
Okay, miss.
Yes.
Ma'am, is it okay now?
Yeah, previously it was okay. Yes. Go back to your slideshow. Yes, it's perfect now. Please go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you, ma'am. These plays have a strong presence of patriarchal domination and emerging protest against it. His plays reflect social, cultural environment of the contemporary England. Shakespearean plays are subject to feminist critique, which describes patriarchy from the standpoint of their unique view of masculinity. On the surface, literature seems to be structured by issues like love, jealousy, hatred, wars, intrigues, human failures, and feelings. But deep down, these texts are the carriers of ideologies. Shakespeare's comedies and tragedies both addressed female gender norms, although from very different angles. While he analyzed gender roles in his tragedies, mostly from a conventional perspective, he did so in his comedies in subversive and critical ways. Shakespeare's comedies poke fun at conventional feminine gender norms, while his tragedies tend to highlight them. The roles of women are clearly and consistently established throughout Othello, Macbeth, Hamlet, in accordance with the conventional worldview. On the other hand, feminine roles are omitted or left vague in Twelfth Night and As You Like It. In the conventional perspective, women have two wonderful qualities that are taken for granted. First one is the conventional biblical view that women are the origin of all evil. Evil is often connected with women. The second is that, in contrast of males, women are presented as being emotionally and physically weak beings. For example, Lady Macbeth is utterly cruel and vicious. She is a dark and cunning persona as well as a powerful woman. Even worse, she tries to provoke Macbeth to do evil. She degrades Macbeth's manhood by using the epithet "quote unquote" coward when she realizes he is unwilling, unsure, or cowardly regarding the murder. She is also described as very cunning and manipulative. She is so bold and fearless that she wants to look like a man because women are often seen as weak. She took control of the situation and overpowered Macbeth. As for the type of women and Lady Macbeth represents, it is clear that the idea of emphasizing that women express ambition and express themselves independently is evil and even unnatural. Thus, the traditional stereotype of women is seen as reinforced in the play Macbeth. On the other hand, in Hamlet, in one of Hamlet's soliloquies, women are identified with fickle and under the sway of changing emotions. Hamlet is angry with his mother since she gets married with his uncle soon after his father's death. Hamlet says, quote unquote, "If thou wilt needs marry, marry a fool. For wise men know well enough what monsters you like to them." Act 3, Scene 1. Here, women are portrayed as being divine by an unchecked desire that leads them to betray their spouses in a devious, subtle, manipulative, and untrustworthy way. Another example of a woman stuck in a culture ruled by men may be seen in Othello. Although Desdemona, Othello's wife, occasionally acts freely and bravely, especially before the marriage, she is stereotyped as being weak and subservient. She tries to protect herself from the patriarchal culture, but she is inevitably its victim. Desdemona must accept male rules since she is powerless. She falls victim to patriarchal society's expectations. The situation she is exposed to is a perfect example of men's domination over women and a perfect reflection of traditional gender attitudes. Shakespeare's three tragedies all exhibit strong conventional gender prejudice. Shakespeare's comedies, however, invert the situation and question conventional gender norms. Shakespeare addresses the topic of disguise in Twelfth Night, which results in the suspension of social norms, since characters can play non traditional roles. This results in a more adaptable view of gender roles. The main character of the play, Twelfth Night, Viola, chooses to assume the identity of a man named Cesario and begins work for Duke Orsino. When it is revealed that Olivia is a woman, she quickly warms to Cesario, her twin brother. Gender roles are not taken seriously but rather are manipulated through disguise. This explains how the play suspends gender norms, which is a clear challenge to prevalent gender prejudice. Due to the play's emphasis on the use of disguise in Shakespearean theatre, Rosalind's role in As You Like It, it is both constrained and empowered as a woman inside the story. Contrary of Elizabethan traditions, we see that males tend to act like women and women tend to act like men. Rosalind abandons her disguise and delivers one more set of lies to the audience in the play's conclusion. Quote unquote, "It is not the fashion to see the lady," the epilogue, "but it is no more unhandsome than to see the lord," the prologue. This highlights how gender identity played a significant role in Elizabethan theatre and culture and denotes that blurring gender roles in As You Like It is a key feature of the play. To conclude my presentation, Lisa Jardine indicates that Shakespeare's women characters, quote unquote, offer insights into women, perceptions of themselves in a patriarchal world. Shakespeare's comedies critique or parody traditional gender stereotypes, but his tragedies have a tendency to highlight them. Shakespeare's comedies thereby challenge gender preconceptions, while his tragedies reinforce them. Through gender roles and identity were important in Elizabethan culture and theatre, Shakespeare's blurring of the lines between gender roles were extremely provocating and subservious. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sana of Sana, for your presentation from Cultural Construction of Shakespeare. Moving on to the next presenter, who is from Applied Linguistics and TESOL, from the course Linguistics for ELT. Abida Alam from the course will be presenting. So she was nominated by her faculty, Dr. Fahim Hassan Shahid. The title of Abida's presentation is Memory and Language, Memory and English Language Teaching. Abida, please go ahead.
Yes, Miss. Thank you, everyone. All right, so hello, everyone. I'm Abida Alum, and today I will be presenting on memory and English language teaching. So to break down the concepts of memory, remembering, and bias towards normality in the context of English language teaching, we know that when learning a language, individuals rely on their memory to absorb new vocabulary, grammar rules, sentence structures, and even cultural nuances. For example, short-term memory retains verbatim, which is also known as word-to-word content for a short period of time, like remembering a phone number that we just heard, while long-term memory holds meaning-based information for an indefinite longer period of time, like recalling important dates in distant past. So in other words, we can say that listeners are good at verbatim recognition, which is word-to-word recognition immediately after hearing a sentence, but poor afterwards in terms of remembering in the long term. But they remain accurate in detecting overall changes in the meaning of a sentence due to the meaning retention ability in the long-term memory. So this proves that verbatim wording gets lost rapidly, whereas meaning is retained over a much longer period of time. And for enabling learner to remember content for a longer period of time, language teachers also aim to facilitate effective memory and remembering strategies for their students. So here are a few key points. So the first is repetition, where repeated exposure to words and phrases helps reinforce memory and aids in retaining information. For example, if we do repeated revision of a school subject before exams, can facilitate in retaining information much better. The advantages is quick recall. So well-practiced memory strategies enable learners to quickly recall vocabulary, phrases, grammatical structures during real-time communication. And the disadvantage is overemphasis on rote memorization, where some argue that a heavy focus on memory techniques can lead to rote memorization without deep understanding. As a result, students might memorize vocabulary or phrases without grasping their actual usage or context. The second is contextualization, which is learning within context, helps create meaningful associations, making it easier to remember new language elements. And as we know, considering the cultural context of Bangladesh is essential for effective ELT, where incorporating local examples and our own cultural references can enhance engagement and relevance. For example, when teaching vocabulary related to food, teachers can include local dishes like biryani or pita to make the content relatable and memorable for Bangladeshi context. The advantage is engagement, of course. So incorporating local examples and cultural references can make lessons more engaging and relatable for learners for real world communication. And the disadvantages are cultural assumptions. So assuming that all learners from a specific culture will relate to certain examples or references oversimplifies the diversity within that culture and can exclude learners from different backgrounds. That is what we can call cultural assumptions. Okay, next is mnemonic devices, one of the strategies. So it is about using memory aids such as acronyms, rhymes, or visualization, which can enhance memory retention. So for example, we can incorporate songs, rhymes, and chants in English classes to help in memorizing new words. And the disadvantages are confidence building, because it means successfully recalling language elements through memory techniques like this can boost a learner's confidence in using the language. And the disadvantages are lack of understanding. So therefore, relying solely on memory techniques might hinder learners from developing a deeper understanding of the language structure, nuances, and the cultural context. Then a review and practice, where regular revision and practice of language concepts contribute to effective long-term memory. For example, teachers can encourage students to create flashcards with English words on one side and their Bengali translations on the other. And regular review of these flashcards can help students remember vocabulary more effectively. The advantage is vocabulary acquisition, and this effective memory can help learners memorize and retain new vocabulary more efficiently. And the disadvantage is again limited practical application, where memorizing list of vocabulary doesn't necessarily equate to practical language proficiency. Hence, real communication requires more than just recalling memorized words and structures, such as practical application. Next is bias towards normality in linguistics and ELT. So the concept of bias towards normality, also known as the normalization principle, suggests that when people encounter ambiguous or novel language constructions, they tend to interpret them in a way that tends towards their typical or conventional patterns of their own language. So in constructing sentences for memory, people could have biases in their reconstructions. For instance, in our course, Fahim sir provided us with an interesting study by Turner and Romenfeld, 1968. In the next slide. In this study, a group of school children were asked to study active and passive sentences, where each sentence was paired with one of the three pictures as shown in this slide. Later, they were asked to recall their sentences, which is appropriate to each picture. The first sentence was in active voice, and the second was in passive. It was found that it mattered very little which picture had been paired with which sentence at the time of the study in step 1. Rather, it mattered a great deal which picture has been paired with which sentence at the time of recall, which is during step 2. The result was that at the time of recall, children showed bias towards treating a particular picture that they were probed with as the subject of the sentence. For example, when probed with the picture of a cat, they produced sentence 1, the active one, 54% of the time, while sentence 2, 11% of the time. And they also responded with a bias towards the active voice, such as when probed with both the picture of the cat and the dog, they produced sentence 1, 75% of the time, while sentence 2, 23% of the time. So it showed a certain bias toward normality. And this principle has implications for both linguistic and ELT. In terms of linguistics, the bias towards normality is a cognitive tendency that influences how we comprehend language. It suggests that we tend to interpret sentences in a way that aligns with familiar linguistic structures and meaning patterns. For example, in Bengali, gender-neutral pronouns are common, but in English, uses a gender-specific pronouns like he and she. Students might default to he when referring to a person of unknown gender due to linguistic bias. And teachers can also emphasize the use of gender and neutral pronouns like they for inclusivity. So the advantages of this principle is inclusivity, where recognizing and discussing cultural differences can create an inclusive learning environment that values diversity and promotes mutual understanding. And the disadvantage is oversimplification. It means the concept might oversimplify the complexity of language comprehension, because not all instances of ambiguous or novel language constructions can be explained solely by a bias towards normality. Okay, next, in terms of ELT implications, when teaching English as a second language, instructors need to be aware of the bias towards normality, and learners might interpret new or unfamiliar sentence structures based on their native language or previously learned patterns. So we could address this by number one, by providing context or additional details for interpretation. For example, if a student is fluent in both Bengali and a local dialect, teachers can leverage their existing language skills to facilitate English language acquisition. For example, discussing similarities and the differences between local dialects and English can enhance comprehension. The advantages is efficient interpretation. For example, recognizing the bias towards normality can help learners quickly and accurately interpret language constructions that align with common patterns. And the disadvantages are dynamic language usage. Languages are dynamic, as we know, and constantly evolving. People often use creative language constructions that deviate from the norm, challenging the idea of a fixed normal interpretation. Number two is introducing and practicing sentence structures within common usage scenarios. So it means guiding learners to recognize and adapt to English-specific patterns, even if they differ from their native language. For example, in Bengali, the word order is subject, object, verb, while English typically follows subject, verb, object order. A sentence like "I read books" in English might be interpreted as "I books read" due to the bias towards subject, object, verb order in Bengali. For this, we can guide students to recognize and adapt to subject, verb, object patterns of English. The advantages is building a linguistic capacity where their memory banks of language elements grows, and the disadvantages overemphasis on rote memorization. And lastly, the conclusion would be that it's important to note that language learning is a complex process influenced by individual cognitive factors, cultural background, and a linguistic exposure. Moreover, effective ELT involves creating an engaging and supportive environment that encourages learners to build their language skills while also understanding the principles that guide memory and interpretation, and incorporating those memory enhancing techniques and an understanding of the bias toward normality. So by aligning teaching strategies with learners' cognitive tendencies and cultural background, educators can create a more engaging and effective English language learning environment. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Abida, for that presentation.
Thank you, Miss.
From the course Linguistics for ELT. Our next presenter is also from Applied Linguistics and TESOL, from the course Critical Approaches to Syllabus Design. So from that course, Fabia Haider has been nominated by her faculty, Dr. Mohammad Abdul Rauf. So Fabia will be presenting on theoretical orientation and teaching learning methods in the national curriculum of Bangladesh. Fabia, please go ahead and present. Fabia, please start. Please unmute yourself. Fabia? Yeah. Yes, you are. Fabia, as you're using your phone, can you please switch on? Yes, on the sync. Yes, switch on the sync and put it on horizontal mode. Yes, then we will be able to see the slides. It's fine. Just switch on the sync. Yes, it's okay now. Please go ahead and present. We can see your slides. Just, I think you should start speaking. Yes. It is full screen. Yes, we can see it. You're on the first slide. Just speak. Yes.
even in between my lectures, I ask my students that what is there any issues that they are having, or they have their if they have their own take on that particular part or concept. So they really actively engages themselves, they really talk about this and that, they have their own examples, they share their own experience regarding that topic. So what happens, it becomes really interactive. So these are all what constructivism and also the national curriculum of 2012 really highlights. So the curriculum framework talks about that, it highlights the creativity, critical thinking, proficiency, moral values. And it talks about that learners need to be the problem solver. So every time teachers coming to them and solving their problem, it won't really help the students. Ultimately, the end of the day, they need to know how to solve their problems, meaning yes, of course teacher will guide them through, but they should know, they should like jump into it, and whatever the problem, whatever mistakes they make, it should be welcome in a classroom environment. Teachers should welcome wholeheartedly. And uh, uh, another fact about the constructivism and teaching learning method is that the classroom should be constructed where students can learn freely. So it should be anxiety free zone. So there should be no like based on the teaching learning method, teachers should not discriminate the students, like my topper students are really good, they should participate, they should only engage in answering. So it is really it's really wrong. So every each and every one each and I believe that a teacher should definitely consider that each of the students have their own capability, own capacity to and they each and everyone can participate and have show their own uh, excellence in their own way in the classroom. So there should be no discrimination, there should be no judgment. Students can make mistakes, and from these mistakes they can learn better. So if I connect this to the Bangladeshi context, so Bangladesh, it's still following the GTM method, I would like to say, which is the grammatical translation method. By what I mean, this is also a theory like constructivism. This theory talks about that there should be memorization of theories, memorization of, let's say, grammatical items. If I talk about English language or like other things, like it's all about memorization, rote learning, passive so it's developing only passive learners. So GTM in a classroom environment is really discouraging for students. Like teachers are talking and talking, students are only just like their puppets, or their just memorizing things, and just without even giving any input, or giving any ideas into the class. So it is really dull. It's really dull for them. So Bangladesh, they need to change their mindset, and it not only depends on the teachers, that their teachers will bring these changes, but it also depends on the entire stakeholders, meaning the parents. They should also like support this system where constructivist theory is really embedded. The government should also bring out bring out to these facts, and embed these facts to the education, that there should be a part, there should be a sector where students can be more creative, can be critical thinkers.
Fabiha,
So
you need to
moving,
finish,
yes.
please.
Yes, ma'am. To conclude, the National Curriculum 2012 believes that constructed classrooms and teacher guidance will help learners to excel. Constructivism supports the fact that learners must think critically, and they must be creative learners, should not depend on the teachers, rather they should know how to solve the problems. Moreover, they are only applicable if teachers and the other stakeholders, as I've mentioned, they take part and try to help the students, guide the students, and create an anxiety-free learning environment into the education system. And where and teachers, yes, because they are really close to the students, so teachers should facilitate and should not impose the students with their own thoughts. That's all from this that I have learned from this particular assignment, the final work. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Fabia, for your presentation from the course Critical Approaches to Syllabus Design. Our next presenter is from Literature and Cultural Studies track. So our presenter is Mohammad Mushfiqur Rahman, nominated from the course Literature and Media by his faculty, Sara Anjumbari. So Mushfiqur Rahman will be presenting on cultural construction through literature and media. Mushfiq, please go ahead and present.
Yes, ma'am. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mohammad Mushfiqur Rahman. First of all, I would like to thank all my respected faculties for giving me this opportunity to present. My today's presentation topic is cultural construction through literature and media. So let's embark on a journey exploring the profound interplay between literature and media. Join us as we unravel the intricate dynamics shaping our collective cultural understanding. Literature's dynamics evolution. Literature isn't confined to books, it's a rich tapestry found in music, art, and beyond. Raymond Williams reminds us that culture and stories influence each other. Let's broaden our view of literature beyond traditional books. Reciprocal influence. Imagine literature and media as friends, influencing and shaping each other. Literature records culture and cultural inspires new stories. Media, including TV and movies, isn't just a platform, it transforms and transformed by the narrative it conveys. Media literacy and its significance. Media literacy is our superpower. It's about understanding, analyzing, creating media across diverse forms, essential for citizens in a democracy. Media literacy enables us to navigate the sea of information, fostering critical thinking and self expression. Reading the media with the key objectives. Why read media? It's decoding a secret code. Media literacy strengthens observation, challenges stereotypes, and uncovers hidden messages. By illuminating bias and exposing motivations, it equips us to engage thoughtfully within media creators. Applying media literacy, analyzing visuals. Let's put our superpower to the test using 5 key questions: authorship, format, audience, content, and purpose. We'll analyze visuals. It's like being detectives finding clues to understand the deeper layers of meaning of a image. On the first picture, Bono Bibi, a mythological song from Bengali rural culture covered by the Coke Studio. And on the second picture, the underlying famous rickshaw art used in Dhaka city's flyover. The key questions of CMS Media Kit. Delving deeper into the realm of media literacy, let's turn our attention to the CMS Media Lit Kit. This Lit Kit introduces 5 key questions crucial for deconstructing and analyzing media messages: authorship, format, audience, content, and purpose. These questions serve as a structured framework guiding us through a comprehensive examination of media content. By understanding the intricacies of authorship, the nuances of format, the dynamics of audience, and the essence of content, and the underlying purposes, we unravel the layers that constitute the fabric of media narratives. These key questions prompt a thoughtful exploration, allowing us to decode the construction of impact that media messages give us. Paratext, Jared Jenner's contribution. Shifting our focus to the concept of paratext, let's delve into the contribution of Jared Jenner's paratext, consisting of peritext and epitext. Play a
pivotal role in making a text present in the world. They serve as the preparatory elements that frame our reception and consumption of a text. By exploring paratext, we gain insight into the intended audience, the timing of publication, how a text is presented to the world. Jared Zennett's framework invites us consider the historical context surrounding a text, recognizing that the journey of understanding begins before the first word. Paratextual elements as an example. To appreciate the significance of paratext, let's examine specific elements that constitute this framework. Format, cover art, for font, and the strategic placement of the author's name and the title all contribute to the cultural positioning of a text. Historical context such as the size of books in 19th century and cover design choices offers valuable insight into the intended reception and the broader cultural landscape. The seemingly peripheral elements provide a nuanced lens through which one can comprehend a text journey from this inception of its presence in the wider world. In the drawing of our exploration, we reflect on the interconnected threads of literature and media that weave our cultural tapestry. Through close view and understanding, we gain insights into the construction of our cultural understanding. Let us collectively embrace the power of stories, the influence of media, and the dynamics of interplay that shape our world. Thank you for embarking on this journey with me, the cultural construction through literature and media.
Thank you so much, Mushfiq, for your presentation from the course Literature and Media.
Thank you, ma'am.
Our next presenter is from the track Applied Linguistics and TESOL. Fariha Mahfouz was nominated from the course Teaching Practicum and Classroom Management by her faculty, Harun Rashid Khan. So Fariha will be presenting on ELT methods in 21st century. Fariha, please go ahead and present.
Thank you, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. I am Fariha Mahfouz from Applied Linguistics and TESOL track, and I'm delighted to give a presentation on the topic ELT methods in 21st century. And here is the outline of my today's presentation. So let's start with a brief introduction of ELT methods. The term ELT methods refer to the various approaches and strategies that are used by the educators to teach English as a second or foreign language to the non-native speakers. That means ELT methods encompasses a wide range of techniques, principles, and activities that are designed to facilitate English language learnings. And at the same time, in the 21st century, and at the same time, in the 21st century, learner-centered approaches have replaced with the traditional teacher-centered ones, and these changes reflects a value of learners' ability of critical thinking and the use of language in real-world situations. Then traditional methods. The term traditional methods also refer to the conventional approaches that were widely used before. That means in the early years, ELT was dominated by the traditional method, which focuses on the teacher-centered approach. For example, banking method, where students are seen as an empty vessels that teachers fill with knowledge, and in the context of language teaching, this could imply a focus on rote memorization rather than understanding a topic clearly. That means the flow of information in one way, that is from the teacher to the students. And similarly, grammar translation method, which also focuses on rote memorization and translation, that emphasizing on the grammar rules and vocabulary. Then 21st century ELT methods. As we entered the 21st century, ELT methods underwent a paradigm shift from the teacher-centered approach to the learner-centered ones. That means communicative language teaching CLT method became prominent, which prioritized the real-life communication over rote learning. That means, similarly, the task-based language system It also encourages students in various problem solving activities that helps to develop a learner's cognitive ability as well. That's mean all of these methods help the learners to enhance their cognitive ability to use language in diverse real world situations. Then critical issues of ELT methods in Bangladesh. Despite the progress, ELT methods has some challenges. Firstly, technological integration and digital literacy. As today's learners are accustomed to dealing with information on so many digital platforms, that's why it's very much essential to include technology into the ELT approaches in order to engage students. But the problem is that learners are mostly depending on those platforms, and teachers need to pay attention on those which might be a little bit challenging. So, but in this case, teacher may maintain a balance between technology and conventional teaching approaches to overcome this challenge. Then secondly, motivation and engagement. By doing frequent tasks or using technology, sometimes a learner may.
Fariha, are you presenting your screen or something? Or you're not giving any presentation?
Sorry, ma'am.
You did not share your screen, right? So I thought that for some time you were just speaking. So just go to the slide that you are talking about right now.
Yes, ma'am.
And give it as a slideshow.
So, secondly, motivation and engagement. By doing frequent tasks or using technology, sometimes learners may feel less motivated or getting bored. And in this case, teacher needs to maintain a balanced approach, which helps a learner to active their ways of learning a language. And thirdly, communicative competence in a global context. Due to globalization, English is now the primary language which is used for communication on a global scale. And for this reason, learners must gain the ability to deal with challenging circumstances to make a successful cultural conversation. And that's why ELT instruction must now include the cultural sensitivity that helps a learner to communicate a variety of real world situations. Then fourthly, professional development of a teacher. The use of effective ELT techniques mainly depends on qualified educators. That means without qualified educators, it might be challenging to impact ELT techniques perfectly. Then fifthly, socioeconomic and cultural context. Like other influences, learners' socioeconomic and cultural backgrounds uh, uh, have a great influence on their way of language learning acquisition. That means the learners who belong to the poverty level may face some challenges in case of learning a language effectively. So to conclude, the evaluation of ELT methods in 21st century is a dynamic process which reflects a changing needs of learners and as an advancement in educational technology. And by addressing critical issues and incorporating technological advantage, we can ensure that English language teaching can remain relevant and effective in our rapidly changing world. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Fariha, for your presentation. So please be more mindful about this issues about presentation in future. Thank you so much. So Tithi, do we have Rashmona online to give her presentation?
Miss, I'm here, ma'am. Assalamualaikum, ma'am. I'm here.
Okay, walaikum assalam. So Rashmona, do you think you can share your screen or Tithi will do it?
Yes, ma'am, I can share, but ma'am, maybe I couldn't be able to turn on my video because I'm using my mobile data.
It's absolutely fine. You don't have to. So let me just announce your name. So our next presenter is from Literature and Cultural Studies track. So this is our last presentation of the graduate seminar, fall 2023. So the presenter is Rashmana Rini from the course 506, Reading Contemporary Transnational Literature, and she was nominated by her faculty, Professor Kaiser Haq. The title of our presentation is Agency, Development and Displacement, a Postcolonial Eco-Critical Study of Gun Island. Rashmana, please go ahead and present.
Ma'am, I have shared my screen. Is it visible?
It is visible, Rashmana. Please go ahead.
Yes, yes, it is visible.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is me Rashmana Rimi. Hope all of you are doing well and fine. So today I'm going to discuss the topic Agency, Development and Displacement, Post-Colonial Eco-Critical Study of Gun Island. So before going to the main discussion, at first I would like to share some characteristic about the post-colonial eco-criticism. As you can see that here I have merged the two different genres. The first one is that post-colonialism and eco-criticism, as they have some similarities, so it can be studied at a time. So the first one is that both fields analyze the historical context from which specific mechanism of exploitation have evolved. For example, land exploitation. Both post-colonialism and eco-criticism, both of these field talks about the land exploitation. Because of the land exploitation, there are so many different crises have been evolved, such as loss of the identity, loss of the culture, loss of the language, and so on. The second one is that both of these fields concerned with the complex relationship between the social and political center and its margin. That means both of these fields actually concerned with the relationship between the center and margin. For example, if we consider the eco-criticism, here we can find out that in eco-criticism, anthropocentrism holds the position of the center, and environment holds the position of the margin. On the other hand, in post-colonialism, subaltern peoples holds the position of the margin, and those people who can speak, those can show their authority, they holds the position of the center. And the third one is that decentering. This notion of decentering involves the attempt to recenter the silenced other and recent their voice. That means both of these fields gives the place to the silenced voices to listen their voice to the other people. For example, in eco-criticism, we can see that environment has the voice, and in the post-colonialism, we can see that subaltern can get their voice to the post-colonialism. So if we analyze this characteristic of the post-colonialism and the eco-criticism, we can say that post-colonial eco-criticism is a theoretical framework used to analyze and understand the colonial activities that are now being undertaken by capitalists and new colonizers to fuel their profit by damaging and destroying the environment. So if we read any text through the lens of the post-colonial eco-criticism, we can consider that there should be three fundamental issues like agency, development, and displacement. So in this today in this presentation, I will try to represent these three fundamental concepts of the post-colonial criticism, that agency, development, and displacement in the Gun Island. So the first one is that devastation of agency in Gun Island. If we consider the era of colonization, we can see that, or we can observe that the colonizers came to the land which has natural resources, and who has natural resources. After that, agency refers to the dynamic relationship that exists between human and non-human species in the environment. But if we consider the our historical concept of agency, we can find that only human has the voice, and so that agency should go for the human. Species cannot be the non-human species cannot be included in the agency. But in post-colonial eco-criticism give the non-human voices space to become the agency, because because the images of the landscape are not only used as background description but are portrayed as strong characteristics which influence the life of human. That means when agency like land or agency like language or agency like cultural heritage has been uh, devastated or exploited, that time the life of human has also been changed, and lots of calamities and lots of destruction can be happened in the life of human. So here for Gan Island, I have chosen the agency land, and the land is the land of the Sundarban and Los Angeles. For example, if we uh, uh, consider the Noble Gan Island, here you can see that the land of Sundarban affected by the overfishing, after that coral bleaching and imbalanced ecosystem. That time the people of Sundarban attacked by the Sundarban attacked by the great deal of damages. For example, natural calamities like floods, cyclones become the new normal, and that time land has been exploited. After that, people attacked by the poverty, and when they attacked by the poverty, they are attracted by the traffickers also, because the human traffickers gives them the hope that if they go to the another land, they can get the better life. For this reason, women are taken to the brothels, and the man are going to the another land uh, by taking the illegal way. As they're poor, they cannot afford that expense to go to the another land to by following the legal way. So here we can see that when the landscapes have when the land deteriorated, that time human life also has been changed. The second one is that myth of development deconstructed in Gan Island. So the notion of development is a process to utilize and advance the local land and population. So if we consider the era of colonization, we can see that colonizers come to the land which is resourceful, and after they come, they manipulated the people through the terms like civilized and uncivilized. After that, they exploited the land and took the resources and made the land empty in terms of identity, in terms of culture, in terms of language, and so on. So now still this manipulation is happening, but the circle of manipulation has been changed because in this era of globalization, information is one of the great factor that which can manipulate people in a different way by using media like by using social media like Facebook, after that YouTube, and so on. And through this technology, they standardize the means of production, and they represent certain product in a way that people get fascinated by those representation, and they voluntarily and give them the consent that yes, they want that developed life. For example, in Gan Island, we can see that Tipu is using the social media like YouTube and Facebook, and through that social media he got some pictures of the developed countries, and that time he thought that maybe if he went that country, if he goes that country, he will be able to get the developed life and that fascinated life, because the area of Sundarban, the land of the Sundarban has been devastated in a way that it has now less natural resources to live. So people who are the native of that land, they cannot get enough resources to live. So when they see something like this like such kind of representation, they obviously they voluntarily will give their consent that yes, they want a developed life. But if we go through the whole novel, we can see that in that developed country there is also natural calamities like wildfire, cyclones, that is when tornado, these are happening, and the people who are taking the illegal way to go that place, their life is more miserable in that place. For example, they becomes the victim of human traffickers. They lost their identity, they cannot live a very peaceful life, because always they're suffering from the psychological tension that what would be happen after that, that. So here in this novel, the myth of development has been deconstructed because that pseudo development doesn't really work anymore. So the third one is that displacement in Gun Island. Displacement is one of the side effects of such a development, affecting natives both physically and psychologically, often forced to move away from their homes and take refuge elsewhere. So here we can find out that two types of displacement. The first one is that psychological displacement, and the second one is that physical displacement. So the psychological displacement is where one loses a sense of at homeness, even though still living in the same place. If we that means though a person living in his land, he lost that sense of belonging, that this land is his, because in that land there is lack natural resources or lack of opportunities through which he can live his or her life in a good way. For example, in Gun Island we can see that Tipu lost that sense of belonging because in his land he lost all the natural resources through which he can lead a very good life. So that sense of belonging has been lost. After that, a physical displacement, where a group of living creatures, be it animals or humans, are displaced physically with force by some other living being or for natural reasons such as lack of resources to survive. So in physical displacement, here we can find two groups like that: the human and the non-human species. So humans, already I have told that physical, because of the physical psychological displacement, people feel that people lost that sense of belonging. That's why they want to go to the another land to live their life peacefully. So like that in Gun Island we can see that human voices like Dean, after that Dean, Rafi, Tipu, they move from their country to another country to live their dream life, to live their dream life. After that, in non-human voices like we can see that physical displacement of non-human voices in this novel also. Like Dean finds that spider in Venice, which is the native of the United States. After that, yellow bellies snakes are also changing their land from California to northward. All of this happening because not all of this happening to the non-human voices because of the global warming. They cannot find that their place is suitable to live in, so they're also changing their place from one place to another. So that's how displacement works in the post-colonial eco-criticism. So these are the three important concepts of the post-colonial eco-criticism that I have been categorized in the Gun Island. So that's the end of the presentation. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Rashmana Karimi, for your presentation. So with that, we come to the end of the graduate student seminars, fall 2023, the student presentations. So it's congratulations to all the 13 presenters from the graduate program for your wonderful presentations. So a big round of applause, virtual one, for you all for successfully presenting your work from summer. And we really appreciate the initiative and also your courage for presenting here. We wanted to do it on campus, but again, due to our current situation, we had to do it online. But really happy to see the turnout, and thank you all for your brilliant works. So we have the head of the department, Ms. Arifa Ghani Rahman, with us, and also Professor Kaiser Haq, Dean of School of Arts and Humanities, as well as our faculty members, full-time and both part-time, who have nominated all these students. So thank you all for being here. But I would request, first of all, Arifa Madam to say a few words. And after that, would request Kaiser sir.
Thank you so much, Nadia, for organizing this first of all. Thank you to all the faculty members who nominated these wonderful presentations. It's really gratifying to see how what wonderful works these students are doing. And without this platform, it would remain limited to within the course. So I'm so glad to hear all this. And as I've noticed, over the last several terms, we have had an increasing number of students participating here. So that's also very wonderful to see. And the confidence, the diversity of the topics, all these together, I think, show us that the master students are really doing a wonderful job of taking advantage of all the facilities, of all the wonderful knowledge base we have with all the faculty members. So it's really wonderful to see that. So wonderful job done. Thank you so much to all of you for patiently listening, and also, of course, for to the presenters for presenting here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Arifa Madam, for your words. Can I request Professor Kasihak to say something to our students, please?
You must all be very hungry by now. If this had been an have had lunch now, we'll have to be happy with virtual lunch until we go and sit down at the dining table at home. But I've really enjoyed this event. Unfortunately, my Wi-Fi connection was acting up. The internet has been very erratically of late. But one good thing that all of us, faculty members and students, um, experience in an event like this is that we can all see the broad range of work being done in the different courses, and there are many sort of specialities represented here. I mean, there are various specialities among our faculty members and the students who come for this event. I think also tend to acquire certain special interests, which they may later on pursue further in higher studies. Interesting. I will not go into a detailed, the commentary on the various performances. Rimi was a bit nervous, I think. She said she messed up. You did not mess up, but you had to gave your paper at a breathless pace because you were using your mobile, and I think that might have inhibited you. So, but everyone deserves congratulations. As I was listening, one question struck me. Uh, Two really. Regarding
I think,
um,
yeah. Sir, we lost you for a couple of seconds, so if you could repeat your question, please.
applied linguistics classrooms, languaging in classrooms in different disciplines, I think needs to be gone into, because if you are teaching, let's say, electrical engineering, translingual languaging will have a particular character. It will be different in a literature classroom. One creates a translanguaged sentence. The question of style that we always keep in mind also does come in, is also relevant. So the presenter gave one sentence, failed the exam. I said, no, no, hard working shot to it should be hard work shot to. Stylistically, the sentence sounds better if you say hard work shot to. He failed the exam. Okay. Anyway, then the other question occurred to me. It has to do with language learning. First language, second language acquisition. And one problem that intrigues me is, I mean, not first language acquisition, language loss. There are many cases of people the mother tongue, or because they live in a particular They are fluent in that language. It is the language that they use habitually, let's say until the age of 4 or 5. And then they are transplanted into another situation, and there they lose that language. Now, I can give you a few examples. Monica Ali, whose novel Brick Lane, most of you have read, you see, um, was absolutely fluent in Bangla until when she left Bangladesh at the age of 4 in 1971. And her younger brother, also just 1 year younger, they used to chatter away in Bangla round the clock. Then they were transplanted to England. The plan was that they would come back, but then her father is Bangladeshi. They couldn't because of they just settled there. And later on, as you know, she's become a well-known writer. She doesn't have a word of Bangla now, nor does her brother. Okay. This is one instance. Another one is Jhumpa Lahiri. Now, Jhumpa Lahiri learned Bangla as her mother tongue. She used to speak in Bangla in her family, and then when she was sent to school, she had to learn. It was like being thrown into the sea to learn to swim. But then she eventually did learn English very well and became a famous writer in English. Now she still has some Bangla. She speaks it with an accent. She can't read it, but if she speaks in Bangla with her relatives, they find English because they find Bangla a bit odd. Okay. Another example, I met a professor at SOAS. His field is African studies, and especially Nigerian popular culture. But he was born in Bangalore till he was 4 years old. He was fluent in Kannada, not English, Kannada. And now he doesn't have a word of Kannada. So this thing about loss of the mother tongue, and then its replacement by another, and there are different gradations. For example, translingual writers, myself, for instance. Now, my literary language is English. I read Bangla, I can speak Bangla. I do not, write anything creatively in Bangla. But there are bilingual writers also. I mean, very few of them. So this process of the first language being either lost, or it is then supplanted by another language which becomes the main language of expression. This phenomenon is, I think, fascinating, and needs to be. I'd be interested to hear how the sort of uh, specialists in applied linguistics and linguistics explain this. Okay, so that's all. I mean, unfortunately, I couldn't pay all the papers because of the erratic connection, but it's been a fascinating experience. Congratulations to all of you, to the faculty members who have helped in organizing this, and primarily to the students who have participated, and to those who have listened in. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kaiser sir, for those insightful words, and I think very valid observations and comments. So, as always, we look for your guidance on this. So, thank you, sir, for doing that. And if anyone has any other comments, very quickly, because
I think Rafi wanted to say something.
Yes.
I think Rafi wanted to.
Rafi, you want to add something here?
I'll just try. Actually, I couldn't hear Kaiser sir very well. His voice was breaking. But about translanguaging, if we look at languages, like if we put the languages under microscope, all languages are translanguage. Bangla is a translanguage. It's combination of words from Hindi, Arabic, Persian, Portuguese, all those make up Bangla. That the same rule applies to English as well. English is a trans language. It's a combination of words from all the Romance languages. Now, in the educational context, translanguaging is highly situated. The highly situated nature of translanguaging produce different outcome. So the translanguaging pedagogy that we apply in language learning classroom will definitely look different in literature learning classroom or in engineering classroom. And this is the speciality, or I would say this is the power of translanguaging. We always take the contextual nuances into consideration. We do not apply, like the one size fits all policy or the philosophy of English medium instruction in classrooms. So yeah, that's why translanguaging is called a practical way of looking at language and education and also the speakers of the languages. Yeah, it makes sense, sir?
Yeah. So, I mean, in other words, the point I've made, you've clarified that depending on the classroom situation, you adapt the method. Another thing about the translanguaging, I would very much enjoy listening to a paper on translanguaging in a translanguaged form, mixing English, Bangla, maybe some other language. I think that would be very interesting to listen to. But I think.
Sir, could you please repeat again? I got disconnected. My internet.
No, I was saying that I find it very interesting. I find it. I'm sure the others too. I would find it very interesting to listen to a presentation or a paper using translanguage. You get it? Am I audible?
Sir, I got disconnected in between, so I haven't heard you.
Internet everywhere is acting up today. I don't know. So we are all getting a lot of problems. Yes.
We're all experiencing Wi-Fi glitches. Yeah, I was saying that I find it very interesting to listen to a presentation or a paper using translanguage instead of discussing translanguage.
Yes.
I think we should have a separate session on this.
The paper
There will be some.
use translanguage. That would be that would be quite fascinating.
Definitely, sir.
I'd really enjoy that.
We can take a project. Like there is growing literature on translingual writing, and we are trying to pushing the boundaries. For example, the international journals where I publish in, they are very much monolingual, English monolingual, but I inserted translingual text. So why not? Definitely, we can take some projects and write a paper translingually.
Yep. Okay. So.
Okay, so
Nadia,
shall we call it a
day?
Shall we call it a day? Yes. I'm sure everybody's very hungry. So I wish we were on campus and they've treated us all with lunch, I guess. Cannot hear you again, Kaisa. So, all right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you so much. So, thank you all for joining. Hopefully, we'll meet you again on another platform. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you, all the students, faculty, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.